It was hardly ideal weather for the resurrection of one's great-aunt, but Sera Swan's magical power, while impressive, hadn't the slightest influence over the obnoxiously blue skies. Autumn had only just arrived in the northwest of England, bringing with it an unseasonably merry sky, leaves of toasted gold and burnt orange, and, most distressingly, the corpse in the back garden. "You could do with a cup of tea first," Clemmy remarked. "You're a mess. You can't go resurrecting people when you're all blotchy and snotty." Sera chose to ignore the insult, as well as its dubious logic. "Are you sure this will work?" "Would I lie to you?" "Well, you lied to me an hour ago when you told me the tooth fairy ate the last of the peanut butter." "The tooth fairy? How old do you think I am?" Yes, all right," Clemmy cut in hastily. "I may have been known to fib in the past, but new leaves have been turned." Sera was quite sure a barren wasteland stood a greater chance of turning new leaves than Clemmy did, but decided not to say so. With a swish of her bushy red tail, Clemmy turned and trotted back to the house. "Well, you coming? Jasmine's dead and I haven't got opposable thumbs. That tea won't make itself, you know." It was just as well the inn was empty this weekend, and there were no bystanders to observe this scene. For as scenes went, it was decidedly peculiar. It was like the beginning of a bad joke. A corpse, a witch, and a fox walked into a bar. Actually, it was more like a corpse and two witches, and one of those witches happened to be trapped in the form of a small, chubby red fox. Sera wasn't sure if that would improve the joke or not. Sera, who was 15 years old and, frankly, out of her depth, hesitated beside her great-aunt's body. Was she really going to cast a spell with nothing but Clemmy's word to go on? Clemmy, who had turned up out of the blue a few weeks ago and had yet to offer any real answers about who she really was or how she'd ended up trapped in fox form. She was the very opposite of trustworthy. But Sera was going to have to trust her today, or she would lose Great-Auntie Jasmine for good. The upshot was that Sera had plenty of power and not enough knowledge, while Clemmy had plenty of knowledge and not enough power. That was all that mattered right now. And anyway, if Clemmy was lying to her, what difference would it make? Jasmine was dead. A failed resurrection spell couldn't exactly make her any deader. The azure skies wheeled above, still objectionably cheerful. Sera couldn't believe that it had only been a few minutes since Clemmy had found her in the kitchen, said, "There's a situation you have to deal with outside, but just so you know, I hate tears and hysterics," and led her out to where Jasmine had dropped dead in the garden. Sera remembered little of what had happened after that, though her raw eyes informed her that there had indeed been plenty of tears and probably one or two hysterics. Sera did remember that she'd stood up to go find a phone. The sensible thing to do, she'd reasoned, was to dial 999 and let a grown-up take charge. Then Clemmy had tutted, stopping her in her tracks. How tiresome. I expected Jasmine to have more sense and better manners than to die in the garden. On a warm day like this, she'll get icky very quickly. We'll have to work fast." "What are you talking about?" Whereupon Clemmy had revealed she knew how to resurrect the dead. As a collector of rare, powerful spells of dubious legality, and even more questionable morality, Clemmy knew all sorts of spells that other people didn't. Sera already knew this because Clemmy could not resist telling her at every available opportunity. She'd never had the power to cast most of said spells, she'd admitted somewhat petulantly, but that had not dampened her fondness for knowing more than everybody else. Sera hadn't known that this particular spell was in Clemmy's hoard, however, because the legality of a resurrection spell wasn't dubious at all. It was, in fact, very illegal,